Hi, good day everyone. My name is Resen Paltado Corollo and my partner Eric Lloyd Alday Liwag, and we discuss to you the multiplexing and the multiplexing. Multiplexing is the transmitting two or more signals simultaneously can be accomplished by running multiple cables or setting up one transmitter or receiver pair for each channel, but this is an expensive approach. In fact, a single cable or radio link can handle multiple signals simultaneously by using a technique known as multiplexing, which permits hundreds or even thousands of signals to be combined and transmitted over a single medium. Multiplexing has made simultaneous communication more practical and economically feasible, helped conserve spectrum space, and allowed new, sophisticated applications to be implemented. Multiplexing is the process of simultaneously transmitting two or more individual signals over a single communication channel, cable, or wireless. In effect, it increases the number of communication channels so that more information can be transmitted. Open in communication, it is necessary or desirable to transmit more than one voice or data signal simultaneously. An application may require multiple signals, or cost savings can be gained by using a single communication channel to send multiple information signals. For applications that would be prohibitively expensive or impossible without multiplexing are telephone systems, telemetry, satellites, and modern radio and TV broadcasting. Multiplexing is accomplished by an electronic circuit known as multiplexer. A simple multiplexer is illustrated in Figure 10.1. Multiple input signals are combined by the multiplexer into a single composite signal that is transmitted over the communication medium. Alternatively, multiplex signals can modulate a carrier before transmission. At the other end of the communication link, a demultiplexer is used to process the composite signal to recover the individual signals. In frequency division multiplexing, or FDM, multiple signals share the bandwidth of a common communication channel. Remember that all channels have specific bandwidths, and some are relatively wide. A coaxial cable, etc., has a bandwidth of about 1 GHz. The bandwidths of radio channels vary and are usually determined by FCC regulations and the type of radio service involved. Regardless of the type of channel, a wide bandwidth can be shared for the purpose of transmitting many signals at the same time. An FDM system. Each signal to be transmitted feeds a modulator circuit. The carrier for each modulator is on a different frequency. The carrier frequencies are usually equally spaced from one another over a specific frequency range. These carriers are referred to as subcarriers. Each input signal is given a portion of the bandwidth. The resulting spectrum is illustrated in Figure 10.3. Any of the standard kinds of modulation can be used, including AM, SSB, FM, PM, or any of the various digital modulation methods. The FDM process divides up the bandwidth of the single channel into smaller, equally spaced channels, each capable of carrying information in sidebands. The modulator outputs containing the sideband information are added algebraically in a linear mixture. No modulation or generation of sideband takes place. The resulting output signal is a composite of all the modulated subcarriers. This signal can be used to modulate a radio transmitter or can itself be transmitted over the single communication channel. Alternatively, a composite signal can become one input to another multiplex system. The receiving portion of an FDM system is shown in Figure 10.4. A receiver picks up the signal and demodulates it, recovering the composite signal. This is sent to a group of bandpass oscillators, each centered on one of the carrier frequencies. Each oscillator passes only each channel and rejects all others. A channel demodulator then recovers each original input signal. At the receiving end, the demodulation is accomplished with a circuit similar to that illustrated in Figure 1010. The FM superheterodyne receiver picks up the signal, amplifies it, and translates it to an intermediate frequency, usually 10.7 MHz. It is then demodulated. The output of the demodulator is the original multiplex signal. The additional circuits now sort out the various signals and reproduce them in their original form. The original audio L1R signal is extracted simply by passing the multiplex signal through a low-pass oscillator. Only the 50 to 15 kHz original audio is passed. This signal is fully compatible with monaural FM receivers without stereo capability. In a stereo system, the L1R audio signal is fed to a linear matrix or combiner where it is mixed with the L2R signal to create the two separate L and R channels. As indicated earlier, sensor telemetry systems generate electric signals that change in some way in response to changes in physical characteristics. An example of a sensor is a thermistor, a device used to measure temperature. A thermistor's resistance varies inversely with temperature. As the temperature increases, the resistance decreases. The thermistor is usually connected into some kind of a resistive network, such as a voltage divider or bridge, and to a DC voltage source. The result is a DC output voltage which varies in accordance with temperature and which is transmitted to a remote receiver for measurement, readout, and recording. The thermistor becomes one channel of an FDM system. Other sensors have different kinds of output. Many have varying DC outputs and others have AC output. Each of these signals is typically amplified, oscillated, and otherwise conditioned before being used to modulate a carrier. All the carriers are then added to form a single multiplex channel. This topic is about the multiplexer. The receiving end of the telemetry system is shown in this figure. A standard super heterodyne receiver tuned to the RF carrier frequency is used to pick up the signal. An FM demodulator produces the original composite multiplex signal, which is then fed to the multiplexer. The demultiplexer divides the signals and reproduces the original inputs. The output of the first FM demodulator is fed simultaneously to multiple bandpass oscillators, each of which is tuned to the center frequency of one of the specified subchannels. Each oscillator passes only each subcarrier and related sidebands and rejects all the others. The demultiplexing process is, then, essentially one of using oscillators to sort the composite multiplex signal back into its original components. The output of each oscillator is the subcarrier oscillator frequency with each modulation. These signals are then applied to FM demodulators, also known as discriminators. These circuits take the FM signal and recreate the original DC or AC signal produced by the transducer. The original signals are then measured or processed to provide the desired information from the remote transmitting source. In most systems, the multiplex signal is sent to a data recorder where it is stored for possible future use. The original telemetry output signals can be graphically displayed on a strip chart recorder or otherwise converted to usable outputs. The demodulator circuits used in typical FM demultiplexers are of either the phase lock loop or PLL or the pulse averaging type. PLL circuits have superior noise performance over the simpler pulse averaging types. A PLL discriminator is also used to demodulate the receiver output. FDM telemetry systems, which are expensive and highly reliable, are still widely used in aircraft and missile instrumentation and for monitoring of medical devices such as pacemakers. And the other part of this topic is TDM that can be used with both digital and analog signals. For example, if the data consists of sequential bytes, one byte of data from each source can be transmitted during the time interval assigned to a particular channel. Each of the time slots shown in figure 1011 might contain a byte from each of 4 sources. One channel would transmit 8 bits and then halt, while the next channel transmitted 8 bits. The third channel would then transmit each data word and so on. The cycle would repeat itself at a high rate of speed. By using this technique, the data bytes of individual channels can be interleaved. The resulting single channel signal is a digital bit stream that is deciphered and reassembled at the receiving end.
Sampling an analog signal creates pulse amplitude modulation. The analog signal is converted to a series of constant width pulses whose amplitude follows the shape of the analog signal. The original analog signal is recovered by passing it through a low-pass filter. In TDM using pulse amplitude modulation, a circuit called a multiplexer samples multiple analog signal sources. The resulting pulses are interleaved and then transmitted over a single channel. The simple time multiplexer operates as a single pole, multiple position, mechanical or electronic switch that sequentially samples the multiple analog inputs at a high rate of speed. The switch arm is rotated by a motor and dwells momentarily on each contact, allowing the input signal to be passed through to the output. It then switches quickly to the next channel, allowing the channel to pass for a fixed duration. The remaining channels are sampled in the same way. After each signal has been sampled, the cycle repeats. The result is that 4 analog signals are sampled, creating pulse amplitude modulated signals that are interleaved with each other. The speed of sampling is directly related to the speed of rotation, and the dwell time of the switch arm on each contact depends on the speed of rotation and the duration of contact. This figure illustrates how 4 different analog signals are sampled by this technique. Signals A and C are continuously varying analog signals. Signal B is a positive going linear ramp, and signal D is a constant DC voltage. In this figure, the number of samples per frame is 4. Assume that the frame rate is 100 frames per second. The period for one frame, therefore, is 1 over 100 is equal to 0.01 second is equal to 10 milliseconds. During the 10 millisecond frame period, each of the 4 channels is sampled once. Assuming equal sample durations, each channel is thus allotted 10 over 4 equals 2.5 milliseconds. Since there are 4 samples taken per frame, the commutation rate is 4 times 100 or 400 pulses per second. Multiplexers in early TDM or PAM telemetry systems used a form of rotary switch known as a commutator. Multiple switch segments were attached to the various incoming signals, while a high-speed brush rotated by a DC motor rapidly sampled the signals as it passed over the contacts. In practical TDM or PAM systems, electronic circuits are used instead of mechanical switches or commutators. The multiplexer itself is usually implemented with FETs, which are nearly ideal on or off switches and can turn off and on at very high speeds. The multiplexer is an op-amp summer circuit with MOSFETs on each input resistor. When the MOSFET is conducting, it has a very low on resistance and therefore acts as a closed switch. When the transistor is off, no current flows through it, and it therefore acts as an open switch. A digital pulse applied to the gate of the MOSFET turns the transistor on. The absence of a pulse means that the transistor is off. The control pulses to the MOSFET switches are such that only one MOSFET is turned on at a time. These MOSFETs are turned on in sequence by the digital circuitry illustrated. In this figure, a time division multiplexer used to produce pulse amplitude modulation. Once the composite PAM signal is recovered at the receiver, it is applied to a demultiplexer. The multiplexer is, of course, the reverse of a multiplexer. It has a single input and multiple outputs, one for each original input signals. Typical demultiplexer circuitry is shown in this figure. A 4-channel demultiplexer has a single input and 4 outputs. Most demultiplexers use FETs driven by a counter decoder. The individual PAM signals are sent to op-amps, where they are buffered and possibly amplified. They are then sent to low-pass filters, where they are smoothed into the original analog signals. The main problem encountered in demultiplexing is synchronization. That is, for a PAM signal to be accurately demultiplexed into the original sample signals, the clock frequency used at the receiver demultiplexer must be identical to that used at the transmitting multiplexer. In addition, the sequence of the demultiplexer must be identical to that of the multiplexer, so that when channel 1 is being sampled at the transmitter, channel 1 is turned on in the receiver demultiplexer at the same time. Such synchronization is usually carried out by a special synchronizing pulse included as a part of each frame. Instead of using a pre-running clock oscillator set to the identical frequency of the transmitter system clock, the clock for the demultiplexer is derived from the received PAM signal itself. After clock pulses of the proper frequency have been obtained, it is necessary to synchronize the multiple channels. It is usually done with a special synchronizing pulse applied to one of the input channels at the transmitter. In the 4-channel system discussed previously, only 3 actual signals are transmitted. The 4th channel is used to transmit a special pulse whose characteristics are unique in such way so that it can be easily recognized. The amplitude of the pulse can be higher than the highest amplitude data pulse, or the width of the pulse can be wider than those pulses derived by sampling the input signals. Special circuits are then used to detect the sync pulse. In the figure A, the PAM signal has been applied to an amplifier or limiter circuit, which first amplifies all received pulses to a high level and then clips them off at a fixed level. The output of the limiter is thus a constant amplitude rectangular wave whose output frequency is equal to the commutation rate. This is the frequency at which the PAM pulses occur and is determined by the transmitting multiplexer clock. The rectangular pulses at the output of the limiter is applied to a bandpass filter, which eliminates the upper harmonics, creating a sine wave signal at the transmitting clock frequency. This signal is applied to the phase detector circuit in a PLL along with the input from a voltage-controlled oscillator. The BCO is set to operate at the frequency of a PML pulses. However, the BCO frequency is controlled by a DC error voltage applied to its input. This input is derived from the phase detector output, which is filtered by a low-pass filter into a DC voltage. The phase detector compares the phase of the incoming PAM sine wave to the BCO sine wave. If a phase error exists, the phase detector produces an output voltage, which is filtered to provide a varying direct current. The system is stabilized or locked when the BCO output frequency is identical to that of the sine wave frequency derived from the PAM input. The difference is that the two are shifted in phase by 90 degrees. If the PAM signal frequency changes for some reason, the phase detector picks up the variation and generates an error signal that is used to change the frequency of the BCO to match. Because of the closed-loop feature of the system, the BCO automatically tracks even minute frequency changes in the PAM signal, ensuring that the clock frequency used in the demultiplexer will always perfectly match that of the original PAM signal. The PAM signal of the BCO is applied to a one-shot pulse generator that creates rectangular pulses at the proper frequency. These are used to step the counter in the demultiplexer. The counter generates the gating pulses for the FET demultiplexer switches. A simpler, open-loop clock pulse circuit is shown in the figure B. Again, the PAM signal is applied to an amplifier or limiter and then a bandpass filter. The sine wave output of the bandpass filter is amplified and applied to a phase shift circuit, which produces a 90 degrees phase shift at the frequency of operation. This phase shifted sine wave is then applied to a pulse generator, which in turn creates the clock pulses for the demultiplexer. One disadvantage of this technique is that the phase shift circuit is fixed to create a 90 degree shift at only one frequency, and so minor shifts in input frequency produce clock pulses whose timing is not perfectly accurate. However, in most systems in which frequency variations are not great, the circuit operates This figure shows an example of a sync pulse that is higher in amplitude than the maximum pulse value of any data signal. The sync pulse is also the last to occur in the frame. At the receiver, a comparator circuit is used to detect the sync pulse. One input to the comparator is set to a DC reference voltage that is slightly higher than the maximum amplitude possible for the data pulses. When a pulse greater than the reference amplitude occurs, the sync pulse, the comparator immediately generates an output pulse, which can then be used for synchronization. Alternatively, it is possible not to transmit a pulse during one channel interval, leaving a blank space in each frame that can then be detected for the purpose of synchronization. This figure shows the complete PAM demultiplexer. Keep it in mind that such circuitry today is deep within an integrated circuit and cannot be accessed. Knowing the concept of internal operations is helpful, but generally you will only be concerned with the input and output signals. The most popular form of TDM uses pulse code modulation or PCM, in which multiple channels of digital data are transmitted in serial form. Each channel is assigned a time slot in which to transmit one binary word of data. The data streams from the various channels are interleaved and transmitted sequentially. When PCM is used to transmit analog signals, the signals are sampled with a multiplexer as described previously for PAM, and then converted by an analog or digital converter into a series of binary numbers, where each number is proportional to the amplitude of the analog signal at the various sampling points. These binary words are converted from parallel to serial format and then transmitted. At the receiving end, the various channels are demultiplexed and the original sequential binary numbers recovered, stored in a digital memory, and then transferred to a digital or analog converter that reconstructs the analog signal. Any binary data, multiplex or not, can be transmitted by PCM. Most long-distance space probes have onboard video cameras, whose output signals are digitized and transmitted back to Earth in binary format. Such PCM video systems make possible the transmission of graphic images over incredible distances. In computer multimedia presentations, video data is often digitized and transmitted by PCM techniques to a remote source. This figure shows a general block diagram of the major components in a PCM system, where analog voice signals are the initial inputs. The voice signals are applied to analog or digital converters, where generate an 8-bit parallel binary word or byte each time a sample is taken. Since the digital data must be transmitted serially, the analog or digital converter output is fed to a shift register, which produces a serial data output from the parallel input. The telephone systems, a codec takes care of the analog or digital parallel to serial conversion. The clock oscillator circuit driving the shift register operates at the desired bit rate. At the receiving end of the communication link, the PCM signal is demultiplexed and converted back to the original data. The PCM baseband signal may come in over a cable, in which case the signal is regenerated and reshaped prior to being applied to the demultiplexer. Alternatively, if the PCM signal has modulated a carrier and is being transmitted by radio, the RF signal will be picked up by a receiver and then demodulated. The original serial PCM binary waveform is recovered and fed to a shaping circuit to clean up and rejuvenate the binary pulses. The original signal is then demultiplexed and means of a digital demultiplexer using AND or NAND gates. The binary counter and decoder driving the demultiplexer are kept in step with the receiver through a combination of clock, recovery, and sync pulse detector circuits similar to those used in PAM systems. The sync pulse is usually generated and sent at the end of each frame. The demultiplex serial output signals are fed to a shift registered for conversion to parallel data and sent to digital and analog converter and then a low-pass filter. The shift register and digital or analog converter are usually part of a codec. The result is a highly accurate reproduction of the original voice signal. Keep in mind that all the multiplexing and demultiplexing circuits are usually in integrated form. In fact, both MUX and DE-MUX circuits are combined in a single chip to form a TDM transceiver that is used at both ends of the communication link. The individual circuits are not accessible. However, you do have access to all the inputs and outputs that allow you to perform tests, measurements, and troubleshooting as required. PCM is reliable, inexpensive, and highly resistant to noise. In PCM, the transmitted binary pulses all have the same amplitude and, like FM signals, can be cleft to reduce noise. Further, even when signals have been integrated because of noise, attenuation, or distortion, all the receivers has to do is to determine when a pulse was transmitted. Amplitude, width, frequency, phase shape, and so on do not affect reception. Thus, PCM signals are easily recovered and rejuvenated, no matter what the circumstances. PCM is so superior to other forms of pulse modulation and multiplexing for transmission of data that it has virtually replaced them all in communication applications. The most widespread use of TDM is in the telephone system. All modern telephone systems are used digital transmission via PCM and TDM. The only place where analog signals are still used is in the local loop, the connection between a telephone company's central office and the subscriber's telephone, known as the customer premises equipment. The T-carrier system denies a range of PCM-TDM systems with the progressively faster data rates. The physical implementations of these systems are referred to as T1, T2, T3, and T4. The digital signals they carry are defined by the terms DS1, DS2, DS3, and DS4. It begins with the T1 system, which multiplexes 24 basic DSL digital voice signals that are then multiplexed into larger and faster DS2, DS3, and DS4 signals for transmission. Usually, T1 transmission is by way of a dual twisted pair cable or coaxial cable. Wireless transmission is also common today. The T2, T3, and T4 system are coaxial cable, microwave radio, or fiber optic cable transmission. The most commonly used PCM system is the T1 system developed by the Bell Telephone for transmitting telephone conversations by high-speed digital links. The T1 system multiplexes 24 voice channels onto a single line by using TDM techniques. Each serial digital word from the 24 channels is then transmitted sequentially. Each frame is sampled at an 8 kHz rate, producing a 125 microsecond sampling interval. During the 125 microsecond interval between analog samples on each channel, 24 words of 8 bits, each representing one sample from each of the inputs, are transmitted. The channel sampling interval is 125 microsecond over 24 is equal to 5.2 microsecond, which corresponds to a rate of 192 kHz. This represents a total of 24 times 8 is equal to 192 bits. An additional bit is added to this stream to keep the transmitting and receiving signals in synchronization with each other. The 24 words of 8 bits and the synchronizing bit form one frame of 193 bits. This sequence is carried out repeatedly. The total bit rate for the multiplex signal is 193 times 8 kHz is equal to 1544 kHz or 1.544 MHz. The T1 system transmits each voice signals at a 64 kbps rate, but they also frequently used to transmit fewer than 24 inputs at a faster rate. For instance, a T1 line can transmit a single source of computer data at a 1.544 Mbps rate. It can also transmit 2 data sources at a 722 kbps rate, or 4 sources of 386 kbps rate, and so on. These are known as fractional T1 lines. T2 systems are not widely used except as a stepping stone to form DS3 signals. The T1 and T3 lines are widely used by business and industry for telephone service as well as for digital data transmission. These are dedicated circuits leased from the telephone company and used only by the subscriber so that the full data rate is available. The T2 and T4 lines are rarely used by subscribers, but they are used within the telephone system itself. Duplexing is the method by which two-way communications are handled. Remember that half duplexing means that the two stations communicating take turns transmitting and receiving. Mobile, marine, and aircraft radios use half duplexing. Full duplexing means that the two stations can send and receive simultaneously. Full duplex is certainly prepared, as in phone calls, but not all systems required a simultaneous send or receive capability. The simplest and perhaps best way to provide full duplex is to use FDD, which utilizes two separate channels, one for send and another for receive. By spacing the two channels far enough apart, the transmitter will not interfere with the receiver. The big disadvantage of this method is the extra spectrum space required. Spectrum space is scarce and expensive, yet most cell phone systems use this method because it is the easiest to implement and the most reliable. The communicating parties are called Station 1 and Station 2. Station 1 uses the channel around f sub 1 for receiving only and the channel around f sub 2 for transmitting. Station 2 uses f sub 1 for transmitting and f sub 2 for receiving. By spacing the two channels far enough apart, the transmitter will not interfere with the receiver. Selective filters keep the signal separated. Time division duplexing means that signals are transmitted simultaneously on a single channel by interleaving them in different time slots. For example, alternating time slots are devoted to transmitting and receiving. Time slot may contain one data word, such as 1 byte from an analog or digital converter or a digital or analog converter. As long as the serial data rate is high enough, a user will never know the difference. The primary benefit of time division duplexing is that only one channel is needed. It saves spectrum space and cost. On the other hand, the time division duplexing method is harder to implement. The key to making it work is precise timing and synchronization between transmitter and receiver. Special synchronizing pulses or frame sequences are needed to constantly ensure that timing will not result in collisions between transmit and receive. Several of the new third generation cell phone system may use time division duplexing. In this figure, during time slot T sub 1, station 1 is transmitting, while station 2 is receiving. Then during time slot T sub 2, station 1 is receiving, while station 2 is transmitting.